久しぶりだな、麦わら。
ハンバーガーがドリンクポテト付きで出てきた。本物。ホロホロじゃねえよな。気に入ってもらえてよかった。
What's up, everyone? We are here today with some gameplay for Bonney. Some of my friends wanted to test the Black Yellow Luffy into Bonney matchup, so we have a bunch of games for you today with Bonney going into Black Yellow Luffy. Now, obviously we know that Bonney's pretty favored in that matchup, but wanted to quickly talk through the deck now that we've got another ban list coming for Nationals that we're going to be practicing for. I haven't decided on the deck that I want to take yet. I think I'm really between, at this point, Lucci, Luffy, or Bonney. But playing Bonney here today just because friends wanted to test out the matchup. So you can see here we haven't really made any changes from our previous Bonney deck list. We're going to end up switching up some cards after we get some games in, if we think we need to. But some of these cards are just staples at this point. So we are running the Doflamingo package. So we have the Baby 5 Searcher, and then we have 8 of the Don Quixote 2Ks to search out, as well as 3 of the 10 drops, 3 of the Rosinante blockers, and then we are only running 3 of the searchers, and then we have 2 of the zero cost events. And then we have our Supernova package, which is searchable by Bonney. We're playing 4 Cavendish, we're playing 2 of the Apus just to get our ratios right, to make, as we want more Don Quixote Pirates targets for Baby 5 so we don't have any whiffs. But we have 10 total 2Ks, and then you'll see there our top end is 3 of the Eustace Kids and 2 of the Zoros, and then 4 of the Hodies. Really want to try and figure out a way to fit in a 3rd Zoro after playing these matchups. I think the biggest flex card is going to be the blocker here. This was really mainly for the Red Purple Law matchup because it's 4K stat line, being able to play it off Kid. And otherwise, really, Rosinante is just a better blocker overall. It's able to save our Kid in the black matchup. But getting a bit distracted here. Overall, our Supernova package, to revisit it, is going to be obviously the 4 Cavendish, the 2 of the Pooh 2Ks, 3 of the 8 cost Kids, and then we have the 4 Rouges. That's going to be a staple, your best play on 4 Dawn. We're running 2 of the Stun Bonnies, really good into Black Yellow Luffy, being able to freeze a Dawn heading into their 10 drop turn. Then we have 4 Basil Hawkins, going to be really good against most matchups outside of going to be your blue matchups because they're able to swing out and play the events. Lucci's have started taking in Finger Pistols to be able to deal with this card. We'll see how Lucci deck lists change as we test into this meta. But we then have the 2 Bard blockers, which I said are probably going to be 2 flex spots that we may look to add a 4th Rosinante blocker, maybe a 3rd Zoro. We do run a lot of bricks though, so I am cognizant of getting rid of a counter for a non-counter there. So we may want to look at other ratios as well. But we obviously have then the 4 Bonnies and then the 2 zero cost events. But having spoken through the deck list, let's get into the gameplay. Hope you guys enjoy. First, you're going to see some games that I played against my buddy Randall. And then you're going to see us play against Cliff, who has now officially become a regular on the channel. But hope you guys enjoy the games. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Alright, so here we are choosing to go second in game 1. We have a decent curve here with Bonney and Erosion Hand, and then we will have Hody for the 8 Dawn turn. So on 1, Luffy's going to play Garp here. What's he going to search out? Looks like he grabs the Life Luffy, and then we draw into the Zoro, which is going to be our win condition this game. So we play Bonney here. I think we're going to pick up the Cavendish because that's going to be a pretty good 6 Dawn turn play because we don't have Hawkins in hand. And having searched on 2 Dawn, we aren't able to leave one up for leader effect, so Garp is able to get the free clear on Bonney, and we do take the 8K from the leader. Then we're able to clear the Garp with leader swing, play a Roge, and then we're going to be able to restand the Dawn. We drew into a 2nd Cavendish for turn after taking a Kid from life. So next turn is likely going to just be Cavendish. When we probably are going to counter out of this 5k swing. I think against Luffy, because we have the Zoro, we want to stay relatively healthy. So when it takes one card to counter out, we're really just going to try and counter out. If it takes two cards, we're more likely just going to take it. But we are able to play Cavendish here, and we did draw into Baby 5. So we're able to use the 2 Don that we get back from Cavendish to search out the 10-drop Dofi. And then we don't really want to swing into him yet at this point, him with the Life Luffy already on board. So we're going to be able to restand one with the Rouge here. He plays Rocket Luffy to punish us and get rid of the Rouge blocker. And then I would imagine he's going to use the Life Luffy to just swing big, because we're going to be able to rest one of the 2 swings. So he's just going to go as tall as possible. And then we're going to take that, getting a Baby 5, and then drawing into a Bart blocker. Now we're at 3 Don this turn, so we may want to play Hody here, or sorry, 3 life this turn, and we take Hody going down to 2, and then we're going to be able to swing Cavendish. We don't want to swing into leader to give him the resource, but we're going to be able to restand 2 Don, and then we're going to go 10 into Luffy. He's going to have to give us 2 cards if he wants to save it, but he chooses not to. So now we have the Cavendish on board along with the Hody, and then next turn we're going to be able to drop the Zoro. We'll probably try to counter out of whatever swing he tries to put on us this turn, just so we're able to stay at 2 when we drop the Zoro. So he swings at us here pretty tall, so we aren't going to be able to counter out. This may change our play, or we may want to play Kid and play behind that, because we do have a bunch of cards in hand, and we did draw the Rosinante blocker for turn. Admittedly, I don't know how good the blockers are off of Kid because of the Rocket Luffy in this matchup. I am also new to playing Black Yellow Luffy with Bonney, but we are going to play out the Kid here and swing at him with Cavendish to restand 2. We were hoping that he would counter out of that, because we still have 2 swings at him. But he's got the blocker, so he's not afraid of going down to 0. Here he may give us a 2k though. He knows we want to put 1 on Kid and leave 1 standing, so if we are going to swing out, it's going to be 6-8. He takes that one going down to 0, and then he's just going to block with Sabo on the 8 here. And then we're playing Kid. We're going to play out the Rosinante blocker, just in case he wants to try to pop the Kid. So he's thinking what he wants to do here now at 10 Don, if it makes sense to Moria. I'm not sure if he has the Ice Age in hand. If he does have the Ice Age, this turn is going to cost him 4 cards, being if he wants to be a 9k leader, because he has to play the Ice Age, and then the pitch for leader, and then the 2 babies. But one of those is likely going to be the Rocket Luffy, which will draw him a card, so it's really only going to cost him 3. But I'm not sure how good Ice Age is in this spot, given that we have the Rosinante blocker. So he does put the Rocket Luffy up top, and he hard plays a Rocket Luffy here, so he may just be trying to clear both the Rosinante and the Kid, and then just be a 7k leader with 1 life this turn. So he does play the Ice Age after popping the Rosinante with the hard played Rocket Luffy, and then is able to clear the Kid. And then he's swinging 9k at face. He hasn't really established a board, so we probably are just going to counter out of this one, staying at 1 life, and then we're going to probably drop the Zoro, leaving 1 Don up for leader, so that we aren't going to lose on the crackback, because we'll have the leader for any rush cards that he plays. Or I guess we won't really have the leader for any rush cards, because he'll play that after the leader swing, but that does mitigate how tall he'll be able to go. So we do play the Zoro, and then we're able to get back for Cavendish and search out another card with the Baby 5. So we do have a life here and a fair amount of counter with the 2 0 cost events, the 2K, and then it looks to be 3 1Ks. So I think we're in a pretty good spot here. We ended up leaving the life Luffy as his last life. So if he wants to go and be a 9K leader this turn, he's going to only be able to play 1 Sabo blocker. So he'll be a 9K leader with 1 life, 1 blocker, and admittedly quite a few cards in hand. So I'm not sure that we'll feel quite confident going for game, but we'll see what he does this turn, and then we'll adjust accordingly. But we do have quite a number of swings here. Going to be able to swing 9 with Hody, and then swing a bunch with Zoro, and then use Cavendish to get 2 back for Zoro's ability on the activate main to restand him for a 3rd swing. He uses 3 Brothers Bond here to draw into a baby Luffy to be able to play the life Luffy to start his cycle. But that means he's not going to be able to play a Moria this turn. And if he wants to go up to 9, it's going to cost him 2 more Dawn. So he can swing big once this turn. It looks like he is playing the Rocket Luffy as opposed to the Sabo, which means he likely doesn't have the baby Sabo in hand he needs. But he pops our Searcher here, isn't able to establish a blocker, and he's swinging big at Cavendish, so we're not able to get that free Dawn back. We're likely just going to have to let this go. It would cost too many cards to be able to counter out of it. Costs 4 2Ks and a 1K, which we don't have that much. Certainly want to just stay healthy on life here. But because he played out the Luffy before he swung, we do have the option here to play the 10 drop to be able to freeze both of them if he lets it go. But we're swing 8 at Hody, or 8 with Hody at the life Luffy. I think he did make a mistake in not using the ability prior to healing to be able to make it an 8K. But I'm also sure he not would have invested Dawn or invested cards to save it with the Zoro still being able to swing. We choose to play the 10 drop here, but let's revisit if that was the correct play. I think we're still safe because we have quite a bit of counter in hand with looks to be 2 2Ks, 3 1Ks, and 2 0 cost events. So even if the card in our life is dead, we still have quite a bit of counter. But he plays the Moria here. But before we get into that, I want to go back to the swing of the Zoro to see if we could have gone for lethal. So we know we had 9 cards in hand at that point. With 1 life and being a 9K leader, he would have needed a total of, 6 plus 1 is 7. He would have needed 8 to be able to counter out of a 16K swing. He would have had to have countered out of 2 of them, with no blockers being able to take one of the lives. So needing 16K counter with 9 cards in hand, it's pretty unlikely. But if he did have 8 2Ks in hand, unlikely as it be, we would have lost. So I think playing the Doflamingo, knowing the amount of counter that we have in hand, is the correct play, or rather the safer play. I think going for a game with Zoro is perfectly justified, knowing that he would have had to have had 7 2Ks, 2 1Ks, or an 8K or 8 2Ks and 1 dead card. But now we have the 10 drop swing as well. Him still not being able to play a blocker, so it does seem like he somewhat bricked this game, and we were able to play the Hody into the Zoro, or Hody into 8 drop into Zoro rather. He was able to clear our 8 drop, but we're able to get that game and move into game 2. He's going to choose to go second this game. So yeah, you can see in the chat there, he did not have a baby Sabo at that point, but here, us on 1 Dawn, we end up mulliganing, and we play the Bonney on 1. Gonna be able to search that and keep up the leader ability unless we find a second searcher on 3. So we're going to tap one here for Bonney, see what we get. We're going to pick up the 8-drop there as our only... Or no, we have a Cavendish as an option, but we already have a Cavendish in hand. So we're going to pick up the 8-drop, force him to have the answer for it. So him here, he's probably just going to swing leader into face and ignore the Bonney, or he's just going to value taking out the Bonney. So he puts everything on leader. We're going to take that, obviously resting the Garb, making sure that our Bonney sticks around another turn. And then our life there is the Zoro. So we're going to be able to play the Zoro on 9 this turn. Or sorry, this game rather. So now it looks like with us drawing a Hody as well, we have a really good curve heading into the next few turns with him not having established anything on board on. We're able to play the Cavendish and search out an Rouge. He is going to now clear the Bonney blocker with not going at life here. So we're going to be able to stay at 4, being able to play the Hody healthily. He does play the Thunderbolt Sabo to take a life and get rid of the Cavendish, but we're going to be able to clear the Sabo here with the Hody. He's probably not going to give us 2 cards to protect it. And now, because we have the Zoro, we are going to be able to swing into him here, getting him down to 2 life if he wants to take it. Because we know he's not going to be able to start his cycle at 2 life here unless he plays out 2 2Ks, which if he does that, good for him. That's 2 less 2Ks that he'll have when we play the Zoro. Because we're going to be able to play the Zoro at least 2 life this game and force him to have the answer. And really the only way he's able to answer it is with Ice Age, unless he has the Kuzan established this turn and another Thunderbolt Sabo. But he does play out Hiyori, going to stack his life, and they're going to be able to play out the life Luffy, which is going to allow him to take a life here. It doesn't look like he's going to do that. He's going to stay at 1 and just swing 11 into face. We're not going to counter out of that. We're still fine being at 2 life here. The question is if we're comfortable playing out the Zoro and not keeping up the leader ability. Now we swing 8 into 7 here, seeing if he gives us a 2K. He's probably going to give us a 2K just so we don't stack everything on leader. He gives us 2 1Ks. I probably should check his trash to see if he's looking to set up a Moria or if he truly doesn't have any other 2Ks in hand. But he's going to start off his turn here trashing his last life, giving his Luffy plus 2K. Then he's going to be able to attach 2 to leader, trash a card, going down to, 6 cards in hand. If he doesn't have the Moria, okay, he's trashing a Moria, so we know he has a Moria. It's a question of whether he feels safe to play it with the Zoro on board. It looks like he may only be going up to 7K this turn. Plays out the Sabo here. I'm not sure that he's going to want to go down to 0 life. Yeah, he just go ahead and concedes here. Doesn't have a way to clear Zoro and doesn't have the counter to be able to survive the onslaught. So we move on to game 3. He's going to choose turn again. I imagine he chooses to go second here. So us going first, that's okay curve. We don't have really any of our odd pieces though. We still are able to get the Bonney and we do have the Cavendish. So we already have a play on 1 and 5, and really we're going to be able to search out here on 3, having drawn into Zoro again for the 3rd straight match. And now we pick up a second Bonney here to really be able to punish him for not having the Searcher on 1. We're going to be able to pick up a 2K here. And now on the first Bonney, we did pick up a second Bonney over the 8-cost Kid because we're really going to be playing towards the Zoro here as our win condition. And now he's probably going to swing into one of the Bonnies here to be able to clear it as opposed to swinging in life. And then we're going to be able to play Cavendish, search out again with Bonney on the following turn, and then leave one up for leader effect. So he's not able to get the free clear on the Bonney with the Garp swing. And then we did draw into a Hody for turn, so if we're able to get him to not swing at life again, we're going to be able to play a Hody at 5 life, staying at 4, heading into a Zoro turn while establishing a Hody. So we have been pretty fortunate on our draws these games, but he does have the Thunderbolt Sabo to answer the Cavendish again, and then he's going to be able to swing into Bonney. And we're going to be able to rest Garp here because we're not going to have... I mean, really, we're playing Hody, so it doesn't really matter. We're going to be able to get the clear on the Garp and the Thunderbolt Sabo because he's not going to invest 2 Don here. And now we choose to ignore the Garp again because we're going to pressure him down because we're getting ready to play Zoro. So we don't really care about him starting his loop. We want him to just be at a low life total. And he hasn't played Makino or anything to be able to stack this last life, so he'll have to play Hiyori if he wants to cycle and be a 9k with 1 life. But we're not going to be able to pressure next turn because we're going to spend all of our Dawn playing out the Zoro. But we do go down to 3 life here. Still, we have quite a few cards in hand, so we're not really worried about dying. We're just going to swing 5 here, see if he takes it. He's going to have to give us a card unless he wants to block with Sabo, which if he does, we will probably just swing 8 into it, but we're going to leave it standing and play out the Zoro. We probably could have just pressured him down to 0, so that way if he wants to be a 9k leader this turn, he would be at 0 life rather than a 9k leader with 1 life if he has Hiyori in hand this turn. You can see Randall pointing out like we did. We've seen Zoro all 3 games against him. Pretty high roll into an already favored matchup. So not much he can really do with the way we've curved out each game. Seeing Cavendish, Hody, and Zoro. Yeah, he just concedes again. Doesn't have a way to clear it, doesn't have a way to answer the Zoro, so he knows that it's just GG on the clapback. And really, in this matchup, if the Bonney player is able to play the Zoro at a healthy life total with as many cards as we have in hand, it's really just GG if you're not able to clear it that turn. It really just creates too much value. And now we move into our games with Cliff. We choose to go second, and we choose to mulligan. We have a Rouge in hand as well as a 10 drop. And we see the Cavendishes, which for our 6 Dawn turn play. But on 2 here, we don't have a Searcher, so we're just going to pass it back to him. He's going to attach everything to Luffy and swing 8. We're going to take that, getting the stun Bonney. And now we have the Hawkins for 6, so we're going to play a Rouge here, restand 1. I imagine he's going to want to play the Life Luffy here if he has it. Him swinging 5 here tells me that he either has Sabo or he has the Life Luffy. So he does have the Life Luffy here, starting to take his life. And now on 6 here, we're just going to play Hawkins, restand 1 with a Rouge and pass. He's going to be able to go down to 2 life here at no cost, being able to draw a card. He trashes the Rush Ace. And now he here is at 7 Dawn. So I'm not sure he'll be able to start his life cycle this turn. But he could potentially play a Sabo. But he's going to swing 9 into life. We're going to rest his leader. We're just going to take that. We don't have Zoro to be able to defend life. Or rather, to incentivize us to defend life. And certainly not for a 9k swing this early. So he's going to play down the 4-cost Kuzan and pass. We draw into a Bonney here on 8 Dawn. We're going to be able to play Cavendish for 3. And then I would imagine we're going to play the Stun Bonney to freeze the Life Luffy so we don't have to take an 8 or 9k swing into face. And we're able to keep the leader ability up because we still have a Rouge on board. So he's only going to be able to get 1 swing this turn unless he plays the Rush Ace. And if he does swing, we're going to be able to rest the Kuzan. Unless that is he chooses to swing with Kuzan first, which I would imagine if you're planning to remove something, you're almost forced to. So he plays Sabo here, giving himself 4 remaining Dawn. That means he's not going to be able to KO anything unless he sets up... Okay, so he does play the Hiyori out here. He's going to set up the Rocket Luffy, I would imagine. Oh no, he sets up another Sabo, which tells me he may not even have the Rocket Luffy. So I'm not sure that the Kuzan is going to swing, or I'm not sure if he's going to swing rather, which would be... I don't know if that's good or bad for us. I think most likely him stalling out a turn on being able to swing for fear of losing the Kuzan is beneficial for us and really a waste of his +2 here. But he's not going to play into our 10 drop. We do draw into the 8 drop here, so that seems like it would be a pretty decent play. But that said, he does have the Kuzan on board, which is a free pop with the Rocket Luffy, because that's -4 with Kuzan, bringing him down to a 4 cost, putting him into Rocket Luffy range. But he wasn't able to pop anything with Kuzan last turn. I'm not sure if he doesn't have the Rocket Luffy or he just thought the targets on board were not worth it. I imagine he probably would have popped a Rouge if he had it, as opposed to playing 2 Sabos to cycle. But he also, having said that, did play 2 Sabos to cycle, so that's digging 4 cards deeper, so he may have it at this point. But I don't know that we had a better play because he didn't play into the 10 drop. So he wasn't able to use the Life Luffy effect last turn. So we are able to get benefit off of that by swinging into it with Cavendish getting the clear, knowing that we had the leader swing and the Bonney swing to be able to go into it if he protected it. Now we get the free block from the 8 cost kid at least, knowing that he's now going to be able to pop it. So he's going to stack the Luffy here, I would imagine, off of the Hiyori. And so yeah, he does have the Rocket Luffy at this point now, getting rid of the kid. But he also doesn't have much in the way of swings, unless he wants to swing with his blockers. And because he swung with Kuzan, we're able to rest the leader, knowing that he wants to go up to 9k this turn. And he has to invest on to be able to heal. We are going to make sure that he's not able to get the benefit of 11k swing into face. But he does invest Dawn into the Sabo blocker to be able to swing in. And we do take that. I'm not sure why he's just going face and ignoring Cavendish. Cavendish definitely enables the leader ability, but so does a Rouge. But he's going to be able to clear a Rouge here with the Rocket Luffy on his way up to 9k, saving the Rush Ace as his bottom life. Now we really need to get rid of the Kuzan, so he lets it go on the 5k leader swing. And we do play the 10 drop, getting value off of resting the Sabo and keeping the leader rested. And then we're going to be able to swing. We don't want to give him the ability to play the Sabo again from his leader effect. We're just going to keep it frozen, so we swing Cavendish into lead to be able to restand 2 Dawn after playing the 10 drop to make sure that we have the leader effect active. He does have the Moria here, so he's going to be able to become a 9k leader with a life, establishing the Rush Ace. So this is a much closer game than the earlier games where we were able to high roll with the Zoro. Haven't seen a Hody or Zoro this game. But he swings into face here. We do rest the Gecko. Not sure if that was the play or if we should have rested the Sabo. We're not going to be able to really challenge the Gecko this turn unless we want to put Dawn on the Doflamingo. I imagine we're going to poke at the Rush Ace, given that he's a 9k leader and the only other rested target at this point is Moria. Him having played another Sabo blocker, we're certainly not going to be able to challenge Moria, or at least he's not going to let it go. So we're probably not going to swing super tall into it. Maybe just invest 1 Dawn into the 10 drop to swing 11 into it. But the first thing we're going to do is ping 7 at the ace, see if he wants to give us some cards. Now, us being at 1 life, him having the board that he has, we do probably want to establish another blocker outside of Hawkins. Rouge doesn't do a whole lot here with Rocket Luffy being in life, but we do want to make sure that we have the leader effect. And really, a Rouge is basically the equivalent option of the other blocker in Rosinante that we had an option of playing from life. So getting the Rouge leader effect, or the Rouge ability for the leader effect. Oh, we also play out the Rosinante here to be able to establish a third blocker, forcing him, so at least one of these will survive the Rocket Luffy. And we still have the leader effect active. Him being at only 5 cards in hand. I think we're in an okay spot here. Him swinging 9, we're going to use the leader effect, knowing that he wants to use his leader effect this turn. We're just going to rest the leader, not allowing him to get the free value off of the Dawn that he has to attach for his leader effect. And then we do block with Cavendish and counter out, because we expect the 9k swing to be the largest, and we do want to stay at 1 life. He's not going to be able to play a rush ace this turn unless he doesn't establish another Sabo. But he does have another Moria here, so he is putting us on a clock at this point. We really need to start working on closing this game out. Okay, so it looks like he is not going to play another Sabo this turn, but he is going to play a rush ace. So he is going to try and pressure us at this point. Only having 4 cards in hand, though, there is potentially a way that we're able to get there through a blocker and a life. But that would require quite a few dead cards in hand, so we may want to just ping ace to see if we're able to get cards out of his hand and survive 1 more turn, or if he's going to let the ace go. I think we're going to want to probably invest 1 Dawn into Dofi, but we're going to ping 7 at ace with Cavendish first to be able to restand the 2 Dawn from the Bonney search. And he does counter out of the ace, trying to keep it on board, going down to 3 cards in hand. So I think if we ping 11 here with Doflamingo at Gecko, he could potentially give us 2 cards or a Sabo block. I think he would give us 2 cards if he wants to go for game and have the extra swing with the Sabo. But we're going to search again with Bonney here, and we do find the Rouge. So we're going to be able to play the Rouge, giving us 1 Dawn remaining to be able to invest in the Dofi. So we did swing 7 with lead at the ace, and he countered again, only having 2 cards in hand. We're swinging 11, forcing him to have 2k, 1k, or block with the Sabo. So that would be 1 less attack, but he does have 2 2ks, so he is able to counter out of that, keeping his board. We do play the Rouge, able to restand a Dawn, so he really only has 4 attacks as opposed to 5, unless he has another rush ace, but he won't be able to play that, only being at 1 card because he has to pitch 1 for leader effect. So he won't be able to go up to be more than a 5k leader this turn, so we really just have to survive the turn and we will win. And we're not afraid of Rocket Luffy unless he top decked it here. So I think we're in an okay spot because we have, 8k, 9k counter in hand with 2 blockers. So So we're just doing the math here, seeing the Don that he has remaining, knowing that it's going to be 9, 9, 10. And we are able to counter out of one of the swings and block the other two. So we're going to be able to untap with the 10 drop and the Cavendish and the leader swing, him only having the one blocker. He's in a pretty bad spot at this point. I think it's pretty much just going to be game. We're just going to counter out of that with 2 2Ks because he gave us value. We were debating about thinking he could all in and just blocking with Hawkins there, but it really doesn't matter if he blocks or goes all in with Sabo. It's just math. We just have to be able to swing 7. Okay, now that he played out a second Sabo, he has 2 blockers, no cards in hand with a life, so we just got to ping 5 4 times, which we can do pretty easily with the 10 drop and the other characters on board. So this is game. Forcing out 2 blocks, then he's going to take, and then he's going to concede after we're able to go in for game. Now we're going to move on to game 2. He's going to be able to choose turn this time, and I imagine he's going to choose to go second. So here, us on a first curve, we have Hody and we have Bonney. We may keep that. Now he does have the Garp opener. He is able to draw Sabo here. Looks like it's the baby Sabo. And play a Flampe, so as to not get a free clear, or rather, if we are able to draw into a second searcher, he'll be able to clear both. But we search out with Bonney after drawing a second Hody for turn, and we search out a Hawkins. Hand went from pretty good to now pretty bricky with 4 non-counter cards in hand, but he is able to get the clear on the Bonney searcher and play out a Kuzan. We're not going to be able to answer that now, only at 5 Don, so I imagine we're just going to play out, we're going to play out Baby 5 and a Rouge, use the Rouge effect to get the leader ability back. Forcing him, okay, so he's going to play Thunderbolt Sabo to get rid of a Rouge on curve. He's not going to swing because he doesn't want us to be able to rest the the Kuzan for free, but we have the Hody. So we do play the Hody and swing 5 into Kuzan. He counters out of it, and then we're going to swing 8 into it because it's a higher priority target than the Thunderbolt Sabo after Sabo's been played. And we're going to force him to give us more counter in from hand, and he gives us 3 cards there plus the 4th one from the leader swing. I think that's pretty heavy investment to keep that card around, but that means that he does likely have the removal in hand, and he's going to be able to pressure face this turn. Probably what if he wants to play out the Rocket Luffy, that's 5 Don. He's at 8 Don, so that would be what, 7 that he could swing. He chooses to go 6 here. I imagine, we're just going to give him the 2K. Then he goes 7. I'm not sure what the 6th Don is for then, but we're probably just going to take the 7 here. Getting another Hawkins after getting a 10 drop, so hand is definitely pretty bricky at this point. Him now having the board established, having cleared our Hody while keeping his Kuzan. We now have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards without counter, and really Hody is probably our best play, but we can't really go down to 1 life, but we have to challenge this Kuzan. If that Kuzan sticks around, the 8 drop just says pop me for free, because he has the Rocket Luffy engraved now. So we're almost forced to play Hody here, because we don't have enough Don for the 10 drop to keep it frozen. And now we probably should have invested the 9th Don there, but we figured he didn't have the 2Ks to protect it last turn, having to over counter. So we're not going to invest another Don where we would have to keep that to be able to search another card with Baby 5. Given the non-counter in hand and having to take the life with Hody, we're now at 1 life. We're not feeling too bad though, because we did have the leader effect active, so he's not going to be able to go for game. But we take that going down to 0 life. We probably should have given up a 2k there, but he's now going to be able to get the clear on the Baby 5 Searcher. And then he plays the life Luffy to take a life going down to 1 life, and then a Sabo to protect his board. Although we don't play KO in green, so Sabo is really just a blocker there for him because he is a 5k leader with 4 cards in hand, us having 2 swings. We could 10 drop here, but then we don't have a way to activate the leader effect. So Kid may be our best option. We don't have a blocker to play off Kid, it doesn't look like though. So we're going to swing into Hody here, or sorry, swing into Sabo with Hody getting the clear. So that's 1 less swing that he'll be able to have into the Kid. It's really unfortunate not being able to play something off of the Kid. But now he has 5 cards in hand, 1 life, with the life Luffy being able to trash that life, putting him up to 6 cards in hand. And then he will be able, so yeah, he trashes that. It trashes the Rocket Luffy, drawing a card, going up to 6. He's going to pitch 1, going down to 5 for a leader effect to heal 2. And then if he wants to be a 9k leader, he'll have to pitch 2 more cards, going down to 3 cards in hand, unless he plays another Rocket Luffy, which would draw him 1 more card, going up to 4. But he may try to just swing big on the Kid here, knowing that we didn't play a blocker out. He has an even swing with the life Luffy after having trashed the life, going up to 8k as a swinger. I guess one thing that I didn't consider is his ability to play a Moria this turn with the life Luffy having taken the last life. He's now free to choose the babies that he wants to play off of the Moria if he has it in hand. So that would put him at 4 cards in hand as opposed to 3 cards. And being a 9k leader with 2 blockers most likely and 4 cards in hand with our board, we're not going to be able to get through that for game, I would imagine. So we're not in a super great spot at this point. Although if he does play Moria, that means our 8-drop is living another turn. So we may be able to search out options with the Bonney. But he does play Moria here. It looks like he's going to be able to play Ace and Sabo off of Moria. It may have been worth just swinging into the Kid prior to playing out the Moria, because now we're going to be able to use the leader effect to rest one of the cards if he does swing into the Kid here. And if he doesn't swing into the Kid, that means we're able to keep all of the cards in our hand. And he does end up passing here, us drawing into our 4th Cavendish. So we don't have any answers currently in hand. Our best bet this turn may be to just play out Hawkins, put 1 on Kid, that is 7. We would then be able to search out 2 with Bonney, leaving leader effect up active. I think that's probably what we'll end up doing. We want to prioritize playing Hawkins just because it's a non-counter sitting in our hand. So we're going to swing 9 with Kid because we have to invest the Don anyway. That's going to be able to either get a block or a card out of hand, him going down to 3. And then we're debating if we want to swing 11 as opposed to search with Bonney. Or sorry, 10 rather, as opposed to search with Bonney. Which he counters out here, prioritize keeping the blockers on field to be able to go for game if he's able to clear the Kid. So here we now have what? 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9k counter in hand. But all of that is mostly 1Ks. We don't have any 2Ks. So if he does swing correct numbers here, it's going to be pretty obvious that our hand is fairly weak. So it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get there this game. Although that does just depend how he swings here. But if he's able to go up to be a 9K leader again and keep his blockers, it's really going to be hard for us to pressure through that. Especially if he's able to clear the kid. But he does go really heavy here, swinging 13. We're going to use the leader ability to rest the life Luffy, because that's the next highest swing just from a base. We don't believe he'll be able to truly get up to 9K from a leader with only 3 cards in hand. Unless that is another Moria there. And we choose to block here as opposed to give him all of the cards in our hand. If we try to counter out of that, we would be able to, but we would definitely expose our hand a bit, because that would take, what, 1 2K and 4 1Ks. So that would take 5 cards out of hand as opposed to just giving up the 1 block. And then he swings 11 here, much lower, so this is a much more reasonable amount to counter out of. But him swinging 11 is going to expose that we don't have 2Ks, because we have to give him the 2 1Ks. And now he's just going to use the leader effect to heal up to 2 life, keeping 2 blockers, us only having 3 swings unless we draw a Hody, which we do not. So I'm not sure that we're going to be able to do anything here. Realistically, our only play is playing another Hawkins and just trying again. So Hawkins does take 6, leader ability takes 1, kid takes 1, so that's 8. So we have 2 Dawn to work with here. We could search again like we did last turn, or we could just go 9-10 like we did last turn. Or sorry, we can go 9-10 like we did last turn, or search with Bonney. I'm not sure what we're really looking for with Bonney. Best case scenario, given our 2Ks, we only really have 2 Supernova 2Ks. So we would just be replacing 1K with 1K, so it's probably not worth it. We choose here to just put 3 on Kid to go into Moria, forcing out the Sabo block. And then I would imagine here, if we want to play Hawkins, we aren't. Okay, so I think this is definitely a bit of a mistake here. We should have played Hawkins over what looks like we're going to be doing is playing a Rouge. And this is definitely a mistake, because all it really did was get rid of the Sabos, and Sabos he would have to don up with to swing into Kid, and a Rouge is a counter card that can get popped by the Rocket Luffy as his last life here, and Hawkins is non-counter, so this really was just a bad misplay on our part in playing the Rouge. Instead, what we should have done is just use 2 Dawn on Kid to swing 10 into the life Luffy as opposed to the Moria. He's more likely to let that go, and then we could swing into the Ace with Hody. And he's likely going to block one of those because the Ace is a higher base swinger. But here he's swinging 12 into 8, getting rid of the Rouge, having already popped it, so we don't really, we have the counter to save this swing, but we're going to lose this turn because we don't have enough counter once he gets rid of the Kid. So he just needs to make sure he does the appropriate math here, but we know that we've only got 1K counter, so realistically this is going to clear the Kid, and then the Ace is just going to go in for game. I didn't take the time to do the math on whether, had we had played Hawkins, would we have won, but we're going to go into game 3 here. I think realistically though, going back to game 2, even if we played Hawkins, we were not in a great spot. But we get to go second this time. He has the Three Brothers Bond and draws the Ace. And we're going double searcher this turn because we don't have the Arouge to play on 4, so what we're planning to do is just to search twice, potentially even 3 times if we get a searcher off of a searcher and we don't get better targets. But we do take the life here, him having donned up, and now he plays Makino to take a life and reorganize his life. So we do draw into a Bonney for turn, and then our only option off of the Bonney search here is another Bonney, so we're likely just going to do that as well. So we play out the second Bonney here, searching it again before the baby 5 just because of the number of Don Quixote Pirates targets we've seen. And we pick up the Arouge there, and then we search with baby 5, getting another baby 5 as our only option in that search. So we're searching out searchers, which is a bit repetitive, not really getting the pieces that we want. And now him here on 5 rather, he's going to swing into the Bonney, not wanting to let all of those searchers stick for our card advantage engine. We didn't leave any up, so he's going to be able to invest Don here to be able to clear the other Bonney, but we're going to likely counter out of that because it's worth the 1k to just keep it around on board. He does play the Kuzan here, which is a bit annoying. We're likely here just going to play Cavendish, search twice to be able to generate 2 more cards, and then leave the leader ability up. That way he is forced to think about whether he wants to swing into us at all and risk getting Kuzan rested. He may have a way to pop the Cavendish, having swing with the Rocket Luffy rather, unless he just has the Thunderbolt Sabo to be able to answer it, as all of these black yellow Luffy seem to have on curve. Which, speak of the devil, and he appears. Sabo pops our Cavendish, but he is not going to swing into us for fear of getting Kuzan rested, which means that we're able to freely play Hody, draw a card, and then swing into it, see if he wants to give us cards, similar to how he did in the first game, which he goes ahead and gives us the 1. So we're going to see if he gives us 2k 1k here, or if he gives us 2 2ks, but he lets it go, which means that we're sitting here in a really good spot with 3 life, a bunch of cards in hand, 2 searchers, and him only having the Thunderbolt Sabo established at this point and still having 2 life, so he will have to play out 2ks if he wants to be able to go down to 0. I think this turn would be good for a Hiyori. Hiyori would allow him to stack a life Luffy into life to be able to trash his last life, drawing a card, giving him the 7k buff, then being able to use leader ability to play out a Sabo from life, being able to be a 9k leader with a life, but that would require the Hiyori from hand, 1 for leader ability, 2 babies. So that would put him down quite a bit as far as card advantage is concerned. But you can see we haven't seen the Zoro in any of the 3 games so far against Cliff, where we saw it all 3 games against Randall. This is part of why I want to add a 3rd Zoro. I think Zoro would be really good on the following turn if we were to play it. He ends up hard playing the Sabo here to cycle, which means that he's likely not going to go down to 0 this turn, which gives us another turn to establish a bigger body before he starts his life cycle. And the fact that he hard played Sabo first means that he's likely not going to be able to swing into us unless he wants us to be able to rest the Sabo blocker. Now, he plays out the baby Luffy here, and we know that he stacked his life with Makino at the beginning of the game. So, because he didn't have the Dawn to attach to leader, and go down to 0. He may just be holding on to that until the next turn. But we're going to swing a base 5 here, knowing that he has to counter out because we have a potential Hody. He didn't really play into the 10 drop here, but he doesn't have a Kuzan established, so we're going to force him on having the Ice Age, and we're going to play out the 8 drop Kid. We have a ton of counter in hand to this point. It looks like we have what? 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 11k counter with 3 life sitting behind the 8 drop and a blocker. Now, if he did play the Rocket Luffy from his last life using the Baby Luffy, the Rosinante doesn't do much here. And you can see in the chat there, we're talking about whether I should have swung for Hody, forcing out that last life, knowing that he played Makino first. That really should have been the play, because that would have somewhat protected Rosinante at least. Certainly not giving him the free value of being able to trash the Baby Luffy to play out the Rocket Luffy to trash or to get rid of the Rosinante. But he doesn't really have anything big to swing into Kid at this point. He plays Moria here, which may be a bit of missequencing because he doesn't have the room on board to be able to play out 2 bodies without first having trashed the Luffy. And yeah, he's saying he messed up the sequencing here. He ends up playing over the Thunderbolt Sabo to play an ace. Yeah, I think he just messed up the sequencing. But he's going to go ahead and concede there. I think either way, had he had done the sequencing correctly or not, we were a bit too far ahead at this point. Next turn, we were going to be able to play a second 8-drop Kid or just play for card advantage using the Bonney and the Baby 5 that was on board, and just continue to ping him with Hody and the 8-drop until he runs out of cards. But yeah, that's going to be it for all of these 6 games. As you guys can see, this is a pretty favored matchup. We were able to go 5-1 across the 6 games. But hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.